Hi there, directors, business owners, and marketeers. My guest in today's show is John Peebles from Administrate. He is the CEO, and with that, I would like to pass it over to him. So, John, maybe you can give us an introduction about your role at Administrate and what is your company all about.
Sure thing. Thanks, Simon. It's really good to be here today. Normally, I would be broadcasting from our offices in Edinburgh, which is where we're headquartered in Scotland. But today, like most of the world, I'm working from home due to the COVID-19 outbreak, which has definitely been affecting things and how we work and so on. I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about that. Administrate is a training and learning management platform that is really designed to be infrastructure for training and education. And that could be corporate training, which is where we normally focus our efforts, but it could also be partner training, customer training, internal employee training, and so on. We also have a little bit of higher education business as well. And what really makes us unique is we are trying to be that system of record for training and the L&D team. And it's not just e-learning or classroom training or virtual classroom training, which is very much in demand right now, but it's also all the scheduling and resource management and all the stuff that happens behind the scenes that we tend to forget about, even though we've all been students of some kind somewhere. So that's really where our focus is being that infrastructure for the education, the training team.
Great. No, thanks for the insight there. And yeah, I hope when we broadcast this, the situation will be a little bit easier on all of us than it is right now. Basically, moving forward, right? We chatted a little bit prior to this interview about your company culture and your geographical setup. Can you give us some insight into that?
Sure. So I think for us, we're a global company, and although we started here in Scotland, we have offices in the Middle East, in Beirut, in Lebanon, and also in the United States, in Montana, and the city of Bozeman. And we're always asked, these are some strange office locations. Why did you choose these cities? And it's really about the evolution of our business and kind of where we were at the time. But we also like to open offices in markets where we feel like we can attract really great people that might be a little bit cheaper, more cost effective to operate from, and also are really beautiful and support an outdoor lifestyle, which most of our team really loves. So all three of those locations are really great talent pools, and it's been a really great experience operating from there. When we talk about company culture, we often say that we don't like the term company culture as much as company values alignment, right? Because we have many cultures that Administrate. And it's my favorite thing about working here. I think we have something like 30 different nationalities, probably upwards of 35, 40 different languages that are spoken within the team, many, many different cultures, religions, all of it, a lot of different backgrounds. And that's great. But for us at Administrate, one of the things that we're trying to do is build a group of people that are focused around the values of our business and how we engage the world and our customer base. And that's what most people mean when they say company culture. And I guess for us, one of the things that we're kind of well known for, at least locally a little bit, is that we have ambitions to become a really big company that are impacting a lot of different customers and learners all over the world. And so that we have huge ambition, but we also want to do that in a sustainable, maybe a little bit non-traditional way by putting our team and our customers first. And so one of the ways that we did that a lot of people tend to focus on is we've instituted for the last 5 years a 4-day, 32-hour work week. And so we're open for business for 5 days, but everybody's working in shifts and teams figure out how they're going to engage customers and so on. And we work the 4-day, 32-hour work week. And it's great because we get a lot of productivity, but we also have a 3-day weekend every week. So, not too bad.
Doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah.
No, that's good insight. And yeah, definitely an interesting setup you have there currently. Probably some good advice for other companies out there if they consider changing their employment model or time model. as we talked about like the different areas, maybe that's a good pathway to speak a little bit about the sales process and afterwards leading into the marketing efforts in those markets. What difference do you see when you sell to, for example, American companies and European companies? Is there like one or two points that you can mention that really stand out?
Yeah, I think it's been interesting to Administrate because we've gone through a journey that has taken us through a variety of different markets, different market segments, and different sizes of companies that we cater to. When we first started out, it was very small companies. Many of them were kind of 5, 10 people, training operations, and they needed something to get up and running. And so our process for selling back then was much different than it is now. And we also started earlier, about the first few years was mainly focused in the UK and Europe, and now we're almost entirely focused on North America, although we still have a lot of multinational business that is operating around the world. And so I think for us, it's really just evolved from a free trial, sign up, swipe your credit card, the typical onboarding process that you would see for maybe a simpler product, to, as the platform evolved to what it is today, which is very much a enterprise focused, large scale infrastructure that often needs to be integrated with many different tools and pieces of the tech stack. Now today, not only do we not really offer a free trial, but most of our prospects don't even want that experience. They want to be led through the buying process. And I would say that, Europe and the US, although culturally are very different, you can probably tell from my accent that I'm an American. And I think one of the key mistakes that Americans make when they come to the UK is they think, well, we're basically the same as the British. We just have a different accent, and we might use a few more Z's and spelling words, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. And so I think the same applies when you're selling to Europeans and doing business with Europeans versus doing business with Americans. We tend to see that Europeans are run much more formal buying processes. They, like RFPs, they like transparency throughout the deal and so on. And it's not that Americans don't like those things. It's just that you tend to see Americans having larger budgets, less control from a centralized or corporate nature, and less likely to run an RFP process in many cases. And they're much more buying from people, if you will, than maybe the European process. Although, as with any generalization, there are plenty of exceptions here and there.
Yeah, I think I can somewhat agree to that. As I'm German myself, we are very structured in how we buy our software and in general goods. Had some time in procurement myself, so. Yeah, I think Americans are a little bit more laid back when it comes to that in general. So a good point. You touched on one interesting point there as well. You talked about the free trial that you originally offered. So I think one thing we previously discussed was, well, okay, what are the reasons you basically moved from a no trial basis to as a free trial basis to where you are right now? Maybe you can a little bit speak about that.
Yeah, I mean, so in the company prior to Administrate, we had been a B2B software that was focused on selling to healthcare enterprises, hospitals mostly, and it was the traditional B2B enterprise sales process. And I remember very clearly after leaving that company with Administrate, it was like, oh, sweet. Now here's an opportunity to sell to customers that will buy faster, they can onboard themselves and so on. And so this was very much a dream that I had, which was, hundreds of thousands of training companies all over the world would line up and onboard themselves and so on. But I think what we learned, and it was actually a fairly expensive learning, if I'm honest, is that we spent a lot of time trying to simplify the product down. We spent a lot of time on onboarding, the type of thing where you log in and there's sample data and it leads you through a tour and all this. And after a few years, we basically just had to step back and say, the value of the platform that we provide to our customers is not really in areas such as being able to quickly do X, Y, and Z, or ease of use per se. It's more about having the platform that you can base your team in and run your business from and integrate with other applications out there. That allows you to scale, that allows you to be much more strategic and so on. And really our customers, because the operations tend to be different and the way that they configure and set up, they need assistance to do that. And so we just had to say, look, like it or not, whether John likes it or not, we are B2B software, enterprise that's targeted for enterprises. Enterprises get way more value out of it. And we just had to kind of meet the market and listen to what the market was telling us. And so that's why we transitioned away and built things that you tend to see, which is an implementation team and a very consultative sales process and so on. And we're still on that journey today as we get bigger and bigger customers that are coming on board.
Maybe one follow-up question to that. I mean, I guess it absolutely makes sense for your business, and as the software, and as you said, the value that you provide comes from implementing and integrating other connections within the business. So a very complex system. Do you have any opinion in general on free trial in regards to proof of concept?
Yeah, so for us, the way we tend to do it is we'll discuss with a prospect and say, hey, what is it you're looking for? Then we move to initial presentation and we talk a little bit about kind of almost the philosophy behind Administrate. And we do get to the point where we are showing set pieces, if you will, or vignettes of the platform. Our sales team has demo instances and so on, but they're demonstrating various small set pieces of functionality, because it's not about we don't want you to use it, and often we'll even say to a customer, hey, share the screen and share the mouse control and you use it. It's not really about that. It's just about the fact that because the platform is complex, because it is very configurable, we tend to have customers who jump in there and they want to do everything themselves and nothing's working. And then they're like, well, this is really bad. And they have an actually negative experience through the free trial. I'll never forget, we had kind of transitioned to doing no free trials or no trials about 2 years ago. And we had a customer that was just very much like, hey, we have to have this. We want to try it. And so I just was like, okay, fine. And I caved and they logged in, and immediately they started they misinterpreted something. They started trying to do something that would never make any sense. It didn't work. They got frustrated and we lost the deal, and it was like, man, if we just followed the process of explaining and taking them through, then that may not have happened. So
fair. Okay, that's a good point. And I guess for other companies, they really should evaluate what's the process within the software and like the experience for the customer to make a decision on like free trial or potential proof of concept and like a guided concept moving forward. Yeah. Okay. I guess speaking a little bit about in general, the process, how the people actually get to a potential free trial or proof of concept, right? So the role of the website at the moment is like the website kind of your anchor of the overall marketing and sales strategy. So that's where you would lead people to potentially engage with you.
Yeah, it is. And that has changed a lot as well, because it used to be very much a website that was geared for self-service. And we had things like our prices up on our website and so on. And, it was an interesting internal debate because transparency is one of our core values, talking about company culture. And we operate a transparent by default company, and we do everything, including sharing our financials with our team and so on. And so when we said, well, we're going to take our pricing down, it was like, what? This is part of who we are. And actually it wasn't about that. It was more about these solutions that our complex enterprise customers are coming to us for, in many cases require a lot of thought, a lot of discussion with a solutions expert in addition to a salesperson. And in many ways, many times there are many different ways that we could solve the problem, but it's how much money do they have to spend now? What's important to them now? What's important to them in two years? It requires judgment, and crafting that solution. We still provide the transparency on how we got there, but it's just not an a la carte, assemble it off the website. So for us, I mean, the website is still very much the hub of all of our content, and it's where we try to push you to and so on. But in many cases, that is off the back of an email outreach or a much more account focused way of tapping into the market. That said, you talk about COVID-19 and the coronavirus and how that has been impacting us just by working from home. We also have had huge, intense demand from customers who are coming and they need to migrate classroom operations into a virtualized environment very quickly. So we actually last week we were calling it almost like a blitz version of our implementation, where it's the same platform, but we just said, look, we're going to do a very, very focused, very, very fast, very few decisions install process that within a matter of days can get the customers into an environment. And
Absolutely.
Then we'll start almost the consultative, almost a sales process of now what can you do once you have this platform. So
Gotcha.
It's ironic because we've almost gone all the way back to, here's a link, here's a free trial, sort of, to get you up and running on almost a proof of concept very, very fast. And that's been really interesting.
Okay. I mean, no, that makes sense, I guess, in the current circumstances are everything then normal. I guess you will see a change in this as well soon. I guess in terms of, like you said, I would assume, like in general, in terms of lead generation and like incoming prospects, the website is, as you said, the main point to get in touch with you guys. Is it that through the changes, I mean, you basically said no free trial, you're not basically showing pricing on the website. Did you see a reduction in leads? And potentially, what did it do with the quality? Because I mean, a lead, we always talk about the number of leads, but like not a lot of people actually looking at the quality. So what happened with the lead amount and with the lead quality after those changes?
I can tell you a lot happened. Basically, what I can tell you is when we made that transition to really, our pricing moved up dramatically. We started saying no to customers that we would have said yes to in earlier years. And just to give you an example, today we target, a six-figure price tag in many cases is kind of what our average sales ticket is. But, 5 years ago, it was a couple of $100s a month. And so that is a huge transition. And the product has had huge amounts of investment and so on to support that. And so it's almost like we pushed the button and just blew up our entire way of generating leads. The whole pipeline got blown up. Yep. I mean, everything got changed. And that is not a comfortable position to be in, right? And we moved from upwards of a couple hundred free trials a month and a very short sales cycle to dozens of hopefully higher quality, higher value prospects that have long sales cycles and need to be shepherded through that. And so I think what we had to work very hard at is getting unification between the marketing and the sales teams as to what was the ideal customer profile. What does a quality lead look like? Those were not easy discussions. And, it is not an easy time because both teams are working hard. They both are, you got to be aligned. And so alignment was a huge priority there. And it's still a conversation we still undertake today. But I think that transparency piece is really valuable. Yeah.
So I guess to come back to the question is like probably you saw your leads drop significantly. The pipeline got a lot slimmer, but hopefully basically you took the right measures to qualify them further. So I mean, obviously, I think that's where you also have the alignment between sales and marketing. If marketing can confidentially say, here, that's a well-qualified lead, they engaged with our content, they filled out the form, they have the right company size, they fit the ICP, as you said, the ideal customer profile, and basically then it's also easier to close the sale.
Yeah. And what we found, so you're absolutely right. We kind of moved from this like lead rich environment to a lead poor environment, if you will. And what we found is that it requires a whole different skill set to manage. And often people don't, they're often on one side or the other as to what their comfort zone is. And so we have some people who really like dealing with hundreds of leads, and they're pouring in, and yeah, you'll lose 90% of them, but that you've got hundreds, so that's fine. And some people prefer I only really want 15 leads, and I've got a legitimate shot at winning all 15, and I might win 14 of them, but it'll take me a year, and I think what is really the challenge is define your ICP, like you said, but then really have good view of your funnel, how it's developing, how those cohorts are developing through the funnel. And don't be afraid to really interrogate each lead and figure out. And even we found even the definitions, the terms change, because it used to be a lead was a person and a person could make the decision. And now a lead is still a person, but we might need like 15 leads within a account. And actually we want a qualified account, and actually the account, and sometimes in some cases is more important than the person, because we can find the right person if the account has the right need, if that makes sense. So
yeah, absolutely. It's almost like an account lead basis. So you could potentially say, okay, if you have 5 leads from one company that all show interest, well, now you have an actual lead to move this forward.
And it's a judgment call too, because this has happened numerous times where you might have a very large company that comes in, and their North American subsidiary will have different decision-making process from their Asian subsidiary. And it's like it's 2 different companies and 2 different buying processes. So you don't actually treat them as the same account. It's 2 accounts.
Yeah.
Although they're all, from the same, it's interesting.
No, that's a topic we probably could talk another hour about.
Yeah.
I guess what would be helpful for other companies and listeners potentially, if you could share a little bit about your tool stack, what you currently have in place, like what kind of tools were super beneficial for you. Maybe if we talk about like marketing and sales specifically, what kind of are the tools that really helped you to make this transition as well?
Yeah, I mean, we've been on a journey in that area as well, and I think we moved from basically we had a single marketing automation platform about 5 years ago, and then as bits and pieces of that improved, or we wanted to swap things out, the team started moving much more to a decentralized marketing stack where you had a bunch of different tools and so on. And what we found was that was a very difficult thing for a smaller organization to manage and stay on top of. And so today we run on top of the HubSpot platform, which is, like everything, it's got its pros and cons. But for us, why we really like it is we can have our marketing team, our sales team, and our account management team all working within the same CRM and same platform. And that has allowed us to really get deeper insight and model the workflow and the sales processes according to what we need to do. But it's also given us the flexibility to be able to bash out a new campaign really quickly, like we've just had to do with the COVID-19 scenario.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, it's a very similar proposition to Administrate, really, on the sales and marketing side. That marketing automation platform is the central system of record, and then hooking in other best of breed tools becomes a lot easier. And that's exactly what we try to do with Administrate for the L&D team.
Great. Okay, no, that makes absolute sense, and I think my friends at HubSpot are happy to hear that. Yeah. Maybe not my Salesforce friends, though, but that's a different story. No, that's great. Thanks for that insight. I guess before we slowly wrap up the interview, right? Maybe like one question, two questions to get to the end, and basically give you also an option to, tell people how they get in touch with you. So I guess the one question that we always like to ask is like, what advice would you give yourself if you would restart your business now? Maybe not go too deep into COVID-19, as hopefully it's not taking forever. And then basically, how we can get in touch with you or your company if anyone's interested in the solution that you're offering.
Sure. I mean, it's an interesting question, and I think, I get asked it a lot, and it's funny, right? Because the answer changes depending on what stage that I'm at and so on. But I think for me, one of the really key things is assembling the right team is so important in a startup. And I mean, everybody says that, but it really is true. And so I think it's, if you can get that team assembled and it's the right team, and not every teams change as companies evolve and so on, but if you have that team that you can get assembled and deploy it, that saves you so much time and effort and emotional energy, and it lets you focus on the problems at hand. I think that's really critical. It took us a few years at Administrate to find the right team. But now we've got a group of folks that I've worked with for a long time, I've known a long time, was high trust. We're not perfect, but what that means is that when we have these very, interesting, unforeseen challenges, COVID-19 just being one of them, startups go through all kinds of stuff. You don't have to worry about, is the person that I'm working with the right person or whatever. You can just solve the problem. And I think the other piece of that is that's kind of the team that you're in the trenches with day to day. But for us at Administrate, getting the right folks on the board and the right mentorship is also so important. It's been really important for me. And the fact that we've had some folks join our board that have been there before and done it before have been really valuable. So I always say, get an active CEO of a company that's just a few stages ahead of where you're at on your board as quickly and early as you can, because they will help you avoid mistakes, mainly just by sharing, here's what I screwed up, in the past.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so that has been so helpful for me. And I really think it's underrated. And, just finding people that have been on the journey before and asking them what they think. And that thing is, they'll never actually really tell you what to do. They'll just kind of be like, well, I don't know, man. But sometimes the most valuable thing that they can do is just say, look, we're going to get through it. You don't stop freaking out. You'll solve it. And that's been really transformative for me. So I guess that's
good feedback.
That's the thing. John. Yeah. And I think the pitch is, I'm always just a big believer in, if somebody's interested in what Administrate can do and maybe how we could transform how training and education is done for your organization, or you've got a problem you think we could solve, just get in touch with me directly or go to our website. My email is john@getadministrate.com, and love hearing from folks. And our website's pretty clear on how, you can submit your details, and we'll spam you to death. So, go for it.
Great. Okay. I hope you don't spam them to death, but I hope they reach out to you. John, pleasure to have you on the show today. Thanks very much for your time.
All right. Cheers. Have a good one, Simon.